For this assignment, we're going to do a karate kick. It's an assignment where you can play a lot with contrast. It can be squash and stretch, where you crunch the character together and then you spread out all the limbs in the kick. And it can also be with reversals, where you bend the character one way and then you bend it the other way. So the contrast between those two things is really what makes it dynamic. And the more you dial it up, the more powerful it will be, and the more you pull it back, the less powerful it will be. I've shot some live action reference of myself, and as you can probably see, I'm not a martial arts expert, but nevertheless, when you shoot live action reference, there will be things from it you can pick out and other things that you want to edit out and not use in your animation. I've taken some screenshots of my live action reference and I've sped it up quite a bit, and it's already looking better and more impactful. I've created my first 3 poses here. I've put the Hogan here over my rig over the start pose, and then I have, as you can see, elaborated a bit on the kick itself. I really try to extend the limbs of the rig as much as possible in order to make the kick as dynamic as possible. And then I have my recovery pose here. The essence in these 3 poses is that we have a line of action that kind of does this here in the first pose. In the second pose, we bend the character the other way, and at the same time we extend the leg out this way to make it really powerful. You can see there's a kind of a force that pulls the body in this direction, and then we go back again and we recover into to this position. So you have the dynamic of bending the character one way and then bending the character the other way here. So the more you play with this, the more dynamic it will be. Secondly, we can also have play with squash and stretch, and this is what we're going to do here for the next, when we do our breakdowns here. So the first pose I'll be doing is this here on frame 20. As you can see, as we scrub through the reference video, I'm a bit high here, and then I squash down here at the same time as I bring my leg up. The leg is bent, and it is again kind of squashed all the way up and waiting to be extended in this pose here. Likewise, on the way back, we will pull the leg in here on a low position, and we'll kind of create a jump as the character comes back again. To start this off, I will just select everything and I will set a key here. So now that I have that, I am ready to animate here. I will move my whole character over here first, and as I have my foot here, I'm gonna take and middle mouse drag that over here so it is in the same position. I have some foot roll in. I'm gonna dial that out to 0, and then I will start to build the rest of the character here. Here I have lifted my hips up and I've turned to the side. I'm gonna lift my foot up. I'm gonna make this more in this direction. Actually, I think I'm gonna give it a lot more here in order to make this as dynamic as I can. Maybe I will take the hips down here. Oops. Take the hips down to create my squash. And I can maybe even bend Hogan here the other way. I'm gonna move my hands here first, this one. Oops. It is in front of my body, so I need to move the elbow out here. Sometimes it's a bit difficult to see what's going on here, so I'm gonna try and do it from this angle here as well. So I'm gonna move the hand there, I'm gonna move the foot out here as well. Something like that. And I can move my hand up here. These are just like little adjustments that I can easily work with. Yeah, maybe I will, oops. Something along those lines. Let's see how it fits with this, and if I flip, so that looks pretty good. And you can see the way the whole body is scrunched up. I can start to tweak it here a little bit and maybe make it a bit more dynamic. Bring the hips up there. I will counter that with the torso. So by crunching up the whole character here, I kind of creating a squash with the character that I can then contrast to the stretch here. Something like that. On the way back here, we're going to do something similar. So I'm going to just take my pose here and copy and paste it over here as a starting point. And maybe I'll change the hand here a little bit. Something along those lines. I think this hand is a bit higher up here. So this is good enough for now here. I'm going to create more breakdowns. I need to get Hogan over, or the rig over to this point. So I think my reference video, I'm kind of just walking over there and it's very slow. I think I'm going to do that faster in order to make it more dynamic and more explosive. And maybe I'll do it with a little bit of a jump and on the same thing on the way back here. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, to create this jump, I will just do it here on the same pose as my reference video. I'm not too concerned about this timing I have in my reference video at home. It's a good guide, but I'm probably going to change it a little bit later. So I want to create a jump over so we can squash Hogan down, the rig down, and then stretch it again. So in order to do that, I think I'm going to use this foot placement. So I'll take the left foot and I will drag that over and say set key. So now obviously the foot is overstretched because I don't have the body moved over here. So I'm going to do that here now. I'm going to move it up here a bit. So I'm going to change the, actually I'm going to fix this foot here. There. So I'm going to take that up, I'm going to rotate it here, and I'm going to bend it down in order for preparation to land there. Something like that. Here, I can now get my hips up a bit higher, and then I can start with the other foot here. Something like that. So that prepares to come up there. I'm gonna twist the hips around in preparation here. And I'm gonna lean Hogan over. Maybe we'll stretch the torso up a bit. Maybe that was a bit too much. The thing is, balance-wise, I am going to kick that way. I have the body is moving in this direction. So I think I need, in order to stop the body from going in that direction, I need to lean the character back a little bit. And then I can land there, and then I can be in balance here, bang, and then I will have to then get out of balance again and then go over here and catch my balance here. At the moment, I'm just kicking out into the air, and that means I'm not really hitting anything. But if I were to hit something heavy, I could lean more this way, and then the kick, the impact would stop me from moving in that direction and push me back in this direction again here. But we have some leeway there to play with. I am kicking out in free air here, so I'm just going to try and work with the balance as if I'm not hitting anything, but I'm just kicking in the air. I need to fix my hands. I've animated this here with IK hands. You can use IK or you can use FK. It doesn't really matter. You can just use whatever you're comfortable with. If you're using IK hands, it is important that every time you move the hand, you need to adjust the orientation of it so it extends out of the lower arm. That is one of the tricky things with animating in IK, is sometimes you will see animators who don't do this, and then the hand is sort of just stuck in a strange position. And you need to create the illusion that the hand is actually attached to the lower arm. So every time the lower arm is moved, that hand should rotate with it. I am going to move my elbow out here a little bit. You can see here now that I've extended my elbow. I get this weird hand that is overextended. That doesn't look very natural. I need to either put my hand out here, and I need to check it from this point here. Maybe I'll lift it up a bit. So that is better there. Let's go back and see how that works. So now you can see I'm just taking, in the reference video, I'm just taking a step forward. But by making a bit of a jump, I create a contrast now here. I create a stretch that is contrasting to the squash that I'm putting the character in here. And that is contrasting again to the stretch that comes out here. So I'm really playing with contrast in order to make this as dynamic as I can. I'm going to create a jump here on the way back. I have my pose here that is a recovery pose from the stretch. So this is kind of a squash again. And then I go up, and then I'm going to land into this pose here. I can go in and select all my curves, and I'm just going to move this over here to start off with, put it to 41. And let's see how that looks here now. So if I play it, I can hide the thing. And I think at this point I'm going to start change the timing of things here a bit. But I can continue to play with the timing until I have something I'm happy with. The advantage of selecting all my controllers is that I can do these here. I can sit here and edit things and move things back and forth, and I will move the whole pose. So this thing about when you want to offset things, about just taking that, let's say the foot, and say, okay, I'm going to offset that, so I'm going to have it 2 frames later. Suddenly you have pulled this thing apart and you don't really know what is what anymore. What I prefer to do is to build it into the movement. As I put more and more breakdowns in, I can start to build this offset in and polish that offset and control it in a way. By splitting things up, it's very, very difficult to control what you're doing. So before we move on, I would like to address the use of live action reference last time, because I think there's two things that is very important to consider when we do this. The first thing is that, like in my case here, obviously I had to push far beyond what my own performance was. I used it as a starting point, but then I went beyond it in order to make the performance I wanted. Likewise, when you use live action reference of a martial arts expert, you'll have to make the performance different. You have to pull back from it in order to make your animation work. That is the first thing. The second thing is that as a martial arts expert, their objective is to hurt their opponent and to avoid getting hurt themselves. Our objectives as animators and filmmakers are very different. We don't have to consider these things. What we have to consider is that we have to make it look convincing, we have to make it look good, and we have to make it entertaining. And those are two very, very different objectives. So that is important when you use live action reference. So now we're done with all our main poses, and I've added a few breakdowns to the animation. So let's take a look at how it looks here. What I've added here is a little bit of him ducking in preparation, bam, 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 to go in and do the kick. But from here, I have my squash I had before. I have a jump forward, and I have the squash before the kick, then the kick. This is all the same. And then I've done a little jump here back for his recovery. So we are ready now to start adding some breakdowns. So let's try and put things on spline and then have a look at how it looks now here. You can see it is still a bit swimmy and there's a lack of resolution in the movements, but we are getting closer. So now we are ready to go in and add some extra keys where it is needed. When I choose what is needed, I typically go in and find where the feet or anything that touches something, how it gets in to touch this object and how it is going to come away from it again. And in this case, it is the feet mainly. So I'm going to concentrate on this. And I think our kick here is our main movement. So that will probably need some in-betweens to get that impact here. So I'm just going to set a key here. I'm going to set a key that is closer to 25 than it is to the squash, than it is to the kick, the stretch itself. And the reason for that is I want to have a nice big spacing. So we want it to be slowing out and then hit here. But I need to figure out how to resolve this. Well, I'll start with the hips and see what they do here. There, this is left view here. So this is in this direction. That's fine. And the up and down, maybe if I select all my controllers here, I'm gonna pick this down here. And I will also fix the kicking foot here. I think I'm gonna try and move it a bit closer to the body. I will probably have to do something to fix the knee. But basically, I want that impact to be as powerful as I can. So if I take the knee here and move that up, we need to push this as far as I can. One thing is, when I start to do this, always look for where is this force coming from. If I start to twist the upper torso here a bit, then he will come, oops, that was the wrong one. Then I get this counter movement, bang, and it goes over there. So the force, I have a lot of movement here now in the torso, twisting. And that is sort of preparing the movement to happen. So at the moment here, the torso is twisting, and then once that is finished twisting or has twisted quite a bit, then we are ready to get the force from that movement and extend that out to the leg. And it will make it very, very powerful. Bang, there we go. I will probably fix the head here a little bit so it looks in the direction. Maybe I'll move the hips back here a bit and move the chest forward here as well. Go into my perspective view. You can see the torso comes around and then I kick. My hands are a bit funky. I'm gonna fix them here. And the other hand. Let's see what that does. Yeah, I don't like that. There we go. Maybe I could also move them out a little bit so we get a nice arc. They are IK, so they will never really have a proper arc. It will just gonna go straight in the middle of in its path. So maybe we can make a little bit of an arc there. Okay, so there. And let's see the other one. I want to straighten that out here a bit. I can lift the elbow. I can go in and tweak this in the end as well. Maybe this is a nicer silhouette. Okay, I've gone in now and done a slow out from the kick down to this position here. And I've done it with the same kind of method as I did the slow out from the squash to the kick. I've now done just a slow out from the kick to the next pose here. The last two poses I want to do for this demonstration here, I want to resolve how the feet come off the ground here, and I want to resolve how he lands again. If I go in and select everything and put it in spline, you can see there's a kind of a softness to him as he takes off and lands, and I want to get rid of that. I'll start by setting a key here on everything, and I'll fix the foot first, so to get that to come off the ground. I'll middle mouse that and say set key, so now it stays on the ground. I will maybe make a bit of a slow out of the other foot. Yeah. I'll bend that a little bit. So I'll bend the chest a little down. And I can also put a little bit of overlap in the head. Put the torso up a little bit higher. In order to get sort of a nice weight, I will move this down so I get a nice arc, and I will put the foot on the ground. Maybe that's better to see that from here. So I will put that down. I'll middle mouse drag the blue foot over. So now it lands there. He can't land, so I'm going to give it a little bit of a foot roll. So his toe get on the ground. Maybe I'll rotate it a bit as well. I'm gonna do that here. So these are details here I can go in and fiddle with. Maybe I will bring the torso down a little bit, so just so it hits the ground there. I can go in and fix the foot. I can do a little bit of a toe twist. These are little details I can do in the polish pass here. I'll do this here for now. But basically I want the leg to be more or less straight in order to make the contrast between the up and down or the squash and the stretch as clear as possible. And I'm gonna take that other foot down so we get a nice movement. And I can start rotating the chest. But basically it is getting a nice bouncing ball of the feel of the body, and then have the contrast from the stretch to the squash, and then have the squash and then the stretch there again. I can go in and tweak now the hands as well, so I get nice arcs to them. Helps a lot here. It's still a bit fast, the kick, so I will have to go in and fix this here. I'll do a little polish pass on top of it. Let's see how much of it is Maya's in-betweens that does it and how much it is my animation. So if I select everything and put it in stepped, it's starting to come together. I've gone in and added 2s for everything, and I'm still in stepped here now, and I can see it's starting to really come together. What I've added is a little bit of a kind of a boxing move here from side to side, a little bit of animation with the hands, and then from here it is as it was before, and then I have added some breakdowns here to resolve how the foot is coming off the ground and how the feet land on the ground again here, and then a little bit of resolve. I have a little bit of retiming here in the end, so there's a slow into this. So this works pretty well now. And you can see if I select everything and go into spline, it is starting to come together. The difference between the spline version and the step version is minimal at this point. I could go in and add some ones here and there and go in and tweak and polish it a bit more to make it even tighter, but it is actually really starting to come together. If I should make some ones here, I would do it here in the kick, that it's such a fast movement, and in order to control how that is done. At the moment here, you can see I have offset things a little bit, so you have the kick and then the arm comes out to make a bit of a difference. And the kick starts with the torso rotating here, and then once the rotation in the torso is done, then I'm ready to kick, and then the movement is resolved by the arms that are then coming back in here again. I've done a little bit of offset in the arms so they don't move exactly in the same path, also to break things up. I've done a little bit of a polish pass in the head as well, so there's a nice little bit of overlap that brings it all together. But it is pretty good for now, so I think I'm gonna stop here, and I hope you enjoyed the video and you have learned something along the way.